Right, well, good morning, everybody. And first of all, thank you for the invitation to be here, especially as you are going to be given this morning one of my famous lectures on the art of cleaning the toilet. Because for the first few years of my career, that was the most important thing. Because I started my innovation journey at a place called Procter & Gamble, as you have heard, where nowadays they are in exciting products like perfume and skin cream and lovely things like that. In my day, it was toilet cleaning and floor cleaning. That was it. And I got the toilets bit. So my mother was very pleased, because at least I did some housework now. But I kind of thought after a few years, maybe I need to find something else interesting. So after a few years in consultancy, I then moved into innovation projects with British Airways. A really good time to be in innovation in airlines. The 1990s, lots of money being spent. My favorite project probably was to put flat beds into aeroplanes. Now, you are all here because you're very successful business people. So I think it's probably fair to assume that everywhere you go in the world, you travel first class every time. Is that fair? No? I don't believe you. So I give you, what I'm telling you, you probably know already, but first class was very comfortable, big seat, lots of legroom, you can just see the seat in front, but there were two problems. Number one, it doesn't go flat, so difficult to sleep. Number two, there's somebody next to you. And on an overnight flight, it's a bit awkward. It might be a stranger and you're trying to sleep and you don't like it. So when the new beds came in, there were two benefits, not one. Yes, number one, it is flat, so now I can sleep. But more importantly, I have my own private area now. And people would say, that is the big thing, privacy. A letter I got from a lady, she said, thank you so much for the new beds. Now when I travel with my boss, I no longer have to sleep with him. I think I know roughly what she meant to say. From there to my first chief executive role, yes, Eurostar. For those of you not familiar, trains, high-speed trains through the Channel Tunnel that joins London to Paris to Brussels. How could I introduce Eurostar? How about the French, the English and the Belgians working together in perfect harmony? You've studied too much European history, clearly. I have the solution to that particular problem. The solution is this. I am Scottish, not English. Perfect solution. When you're in France, make sure they understand that. The relationship is great. When you're in Belgium, by the way, make sure they understand you're not French, because that can be a real problem. From there, I ran a bank, yes, of more later, and then my own thing. So, what have you got? Very different businesses, okay? Some consumer, some business to business, as you guys are a mix. Very different innovation challenges. Innovation challenges at the top ones were businesses that were successful. Innovation was how do you stay ahead. Procter & Gamble, the most innovative company I ever worked for. Procter & Gamble. Why? Because in most of their markets they are number one. And they have a very simple philosophy. If you are running and somebody is chasing you, you better run faster. And that is how they approached innovation. Eurostar, very different. This was a business in trouble. Innovation was to rescue the business. It was survival. In fact, I remember my first day at Eurostar. Big press conference with all the journalists announcing the results for last year. A loss of 206 million British pounds. I thought, well, I wish you had told me that before I signed my contract, but never mind. That was problem number one. Problem number two, the tunnel was shut. Just after it was built, the big tunnel under the channel, there was a fire. There was no service for 6 months. When was that fire? The day after I signed my contract to become chief executive. And problem number three? Oh yeah, I forgot. The French were on strike. So it was welcome. I thought it can only get better from here. Actually, the French on strike, not a big issue, because it was Thursday and it was lunchtime. So, but there's a common theme. And the common theme is this. This is the thing that runs through every innovation, whether it was innovation to get better or innovation for rescue. A big belief that the big breakthroughs I've seen have always come from the ability to look somewhere else, look outside your environment. Now, in new products, that's very easy to do. You want to make this into a bed, okay? So where do you go? You invite the manufacturers who normally design the inside of aeroplanes. And they come along and they tell you why they are the expert. But there's a problem. They're too much of an expert. They know too much about aeroplanes. So they tell you about all the problems. Oh, you have to sort the wiring and impact resistance and fire-resistant materials. Before you know it, you have 37 reasons why that seat is never going to be a bed. So instead, we said, let's look somewhere else. And we spoke to a company called Design Acumen. They design these, the interiors of luxury boats, sailing boats, motor yachts in the Mediterranean Sea. For them, this is not a problem about aeroplanes. For them, this is, how do you make luxury in a small space? And because they didn't come with the knowledge of aeroplanes, they were far more creative. So they came up with the solution that became the first airline to put beds into aeroplanes. Because our airline was smarter than other airlines? No. We simply looked outside the industry to get an idea to bring in. And I became a big believer in this philosophy. So, when we had another problem, this is what we did. So, second problem. Heathrow Airport in London on a good day in 1993. Okay? Now, one thing you probably already know about British people is we have a particular disease. And this disease is called that we have an obsession with the idea of standing in a queue, standing in a line. We like to be in, we feel very comfortable when we're in the correct place in a line, with the right person in front and the right person behind, and it feels good. We don't like it when these French people walk to the front. We say, no, get to the back, get to where you should be. So that was a nightmare for British people. That was horrible. And we thought, we need help. Where can we go outside? So I thought, well, I know where we could go. How about these people? I had been to America the year before. I had visited Disney. In their parks, they do queuing very well. So I thought, maybe they can help us. So we brought them in. And they had a look, and they were very upset about what they saw we were doing. So we said, please, can you help? They said, well, yes, there are one or two things we think we can help with. I said, great, tell me. So they said, they looked, and they said, first of all, they said, why do you have a queue at each check-in desk at the airport? Each check-in desk has its own individual queue. Do you remember airports always used to be like that? And it doesn't matter which queue you join, it's always the wrong one. There's always a family of 12 going to Bangkok in front of you with 27 suitcases, and it's horrible. So they introduced a very simple idea, the zigzag queue. One queue, you zigzag up and down. When you get to the front, you go to the first available desk. It's obvious now, it's everywhere. It's in coffee shops, it's in supermarkets, it's everywhere. In 1993, not one airport in the world was doing it. But Disney showed it to us, revolution. Innovation by stealing ideas. They showed us some other simple things as well. They said, what was the other thing they showed us? Oh yes, make it really narrow. They said, bring the ribbons close so it's only one person wide, like this. We said, why? Is that to stop those French people from walking to the front? They said, no, it moves faster. It's 3 times as long, but it moves. So what's going on in your head? I am making progress. And complaints go down, even though it's the same amount of time. The other thing they said was, if it's going to be 25 minutes from here to the front, tell them it's going to be 30 minutes. Then when they get to the front, they're really happy. They've beaten the system. They said it would be 30 minutes, but I have done it in 25. I am clearly the best person at queuing in the whole airport. Look at me, you know, fantastic. Simple, simple stuff. So why do I think this is relevant in your world of businesses? I think, sure, my lessons come from Procter & Gamble, British Airways, places like that. But I have worked in a lot of industries over the last few years, in different places, looking at different ideas and different ways of doing things. And do you know what? The innovation issue is always the same. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. We all face the same challenges. And it doesn't matter whether you look at it for the business or by looking at it from an individual department. There's a very simple model for me. that I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to share with you around this model four challenges I think we all face in trying to create innovation in our businesses. I put a little health warning to start, which is this. This is observations. This is what I have learned in my career from managing innovation. It is not preaching. It is not saying this is the only way to do it. I am right and you are wrong. It's simply what I have learned, and hopefully one or two lessons will strike a chord, will be relevant to you. So, where do we start? Challenge number one. The first challenge for me in creating innovation is you've got to change the way you look at your customers. Change the way you look at them, okay? Now, that might be external customers, distributors, suppliers, other people outside, but also remember, as leaders in your business, as people who drive innovation, you also have internal customers. And they are just as important if you want to make innovation happen. But we need to change the way we look at them. What do I mean by that? It's this. Traditionally, understanding your customer is driven by numbers and data and analysis and questionnaires and surveys. That's good. But your competitors are doing the same thing. And guess what? They're getting the same answers as you. So what can you do to get better understanding than your competitors? And at Procter & Gamble, the lesson we were taught was this. Get into the world of soft insights. What do I mean by soft insights? Soft insights are your ability to immerse yourself in your customer's world, to understand what it's like to be in their shoes, sitting at their desk. And that's more than just understanding the facts about their needs. This is about things like the language they use, the day-to-day barriers or problems they run into, their story, the story of their world today, the story of their world after you've done business with them, and how much better it will be. Feelings, there was a big one, feelings. My boss at Procter & Gamble, he said, how do you want your customer to feel? I'm an econometrician by academic training. I grew up with numbers, and I had this guy saying, how do you want your customer to feel? I thought, this is very strange. Can you give me a number on that feeling? 1 to 10? I don't know. But it was the most powerful thing I learned. And every big breakthrough comes to me from a soft insight. Today, innovation is not about doing your factual analysis, because everybody's doing it. Let me show you an example. Sainsbury's is a supermarket, a big supermarket chain in the UK. They decided they wanted to do financial products, like a bank. So they formed Sainsbury's Bank. And what did they do? They did everything that a bank would do. So they created the Sainsbury's Bank Information Centre. And they did lots of analysis. They understood the social groups of their customers at Sainsbury's. They did an analysis of what are their product needs. What financial products do they like? Life assurance, mortgages, these sorts of things. And it didn't work. And it didn't work because they didn't have the soft insight. The soft insight that turned Sainsbury's Bank around was very simple. What mood are people in when they walk into a grocery store? Think about it. Are you in a good mood? And there are some people at the back nodding, which is a bit worrying, but okay. What do you want to do? You want to get in and get out. You know what you want to buy, you know where it is, you put it in your trolley, and you go. The last thing you want to do is sit down for 10 minutes to discuss my credit card. And the ice cream is melting and the children are running away. It's not going to happen. We had to change the complete bank model based on what mood are people in. And we had to create a range of very simple products displayed in a very different way around the store. Simple insurances, travel insurance, put it beside the sun cream. Pet insurance is huge in the UK. Have you heard of pet insurance? Private healthcare for your cat, okay? British people go crazy for it. I didn't understand it until I spent a week in Malta, in the Mediterranean, recently, and my son, my youngest son, his pet rabbit, cost me £400 in veterinary bills while I was in Malta for the week. At that point, I understood why sensible people have pet insurance. I also now understand why the people of Malta eat rabbits, but anyway, that's another story. Had to change the model, not on analysis, not on numbers. We were changing the whole model of the bank based on a soft insight about mood. And while you're understanding soft insights, there's some other interesting things that come along as well. So this is Eurostar, okay? There's lots of functions in the box, but two things everybody knows about Eurostar. The red box, it's a disaster, okay? It's losing lots of money, but it's quite a good service. Does that give you enough information to help me innovate when I'm the chief executive at Eurostar? Absolutely not. There are two key extra bits of information you need to really help me. So don't come and knock on my door and say, I see you're losing £200 million. Thank you, I know that. What I want is help, please. And people used to do that, but two things that would have helped them. Number one, how well do you understand your customer's customer? Think about it. What is driving your behaviour is trying to understand your customer, yeah? What is driving their behaviour? Their customer. That might be their boss, it might be an internal customer, or it might be an external. So if you can understand your customer's customer, you're in a much stronger position to help. In my case, the customer's customer was very clear. It was the traveller. My issue was not business travel. My issue was not my cost base. My issue was very simple. Leisure travellers, holiday makers. So come to talk to me about £206 million, I say no thank you. Come to talk to me about leisure revenue, and I say yes please, the door is open, come and talk. The other thing to remember is when you're thinking about understanding your customer is a person. Your customer is not a business, it is a person inside a business that you are dealing with. So how well have you and your team understood the person as well as the business challenge? Think about it again. If you were coming to sell to me in my days at Eurostar, what would you know about me? I'm a new chief executive. You know my background is brand management, okay? I'm a marketing guy by background. That means there's probably huge gaps in my knowledge about operations and finance and other things. Maybe you're an expert, maybe that's the way to help me, because you understand that. Number two, I'm now 50% owned by government, okay? The Deputy Prime Minister in the UK, a guy called John Prescott, is now my boss, or half my boss. Actually, he's a big guy. He's a bit big to be half my boss, but in theory. That, as these gentlemen know only too well, is a skill in its own right. Learning how to manage the civil service, learning how to manage government departments. I've never had to do it before, but now I have to. Maybe you're an expert, maybe you can help me. Thirdly, I'm not a railwayman. I've come from toilet cleaners and airlines. So maybe you know the industry. Maybe that's the way you help me. And lastly, this is my first chief executive job. I don't know what I'm doing. This box always says two things to me. Number one, how on earth did he get the job in the first place? But number two, look at the opportunities to influence if you understand the person rather than just understanding the business problem. And that's why, for me, when I talk about customer understanding, the customer's customer and the person are just as important as understanding the business issue that you are trying to solve. So that's what I mean by customer understanding. That's the first challenge. The second challenge is this. I believe if we really want innovation, we need to change the description of what we do. We need to change the platform for our innovation. What do I mean by that? What I mean is, if I go back to my Procter & Gamble days, what they said was this: the customer does not care about your product. You care because it's your product or your service. The customer doesn't. What they care about is what will it do for them. So the customer benefit is the critical piece for them. And what Procter & Gamble said is, therefore, use the benefit as the basis for everything you do. When you start innovation, don't start with your product, start with customer benefit. And that way you open up for more ideas. So Procter & Gamble brands like these, if you ask the manager of the brand, all of them will tell you what their brand is about. And they don't describe the product, they describe the customer benefit. This is a skin cream, Clearasil, for teenagers who have skin problems. What do they sell? Confidence. That's the market. That's the business they are in. If I put this word up, where are we? If I go to there, what word comes to mind for most people? Safety. Because that's the business. If you talk to Volvo, that's what they will tell you. We are in the safety business. Yes, it happens that we make cars and trucks, but the business we are in is all about the customer benefit of safety. And that makes them think in a different way about innovation. Instead of thinking of innovation is about cars, they think innovation is about safety. And it's a different question. And we learnt this lesson at British Airways. We had challenges in the early 90s. We were coming out of a recession, similar to today, I guess, and we had big new competition in the marketplace. Emirates, Singapore, people like this. We had to persuade people to travel on business class with British Airways. So in 1990, how were we doing this?
This is British Airways Super Club Class seat. The widest seat in the air. But being the widest seat in the air, it isn't the easiest to fit through the door. From May the 1st on all our long-haul routes, the world's widest airline seat. From the airline that cares about everyone that flies. British Airways, the world's favorite airline.
So fly with us. Why? Because we've got the biggest seat, the widest seat in the air. Now that's not a bad advert. You know, if you want to explain that you have a big seat, you make a joke of, it's so big we couldn't fit it through the door, we had to take... I think I would be worried if I thought the roof could come off my aeroplane, but as an advert, it's not bad. The problem is, it's talking about the product. It's not talking about the customer. It's talking about our seat. So we spend millions all over the world telling everybody about our wonderful wide seat. And then what happens? Singapore Airlines launch a new seat that's 3 centimetres wider than ours. And we're stuffed. We've blown it. Also, it stops you talking about other things because you've focused on the seat. So at this point, British Airways learnt the lesson. They said, we need to learn from consumer goods. What if we build around customer benefit instead of building from the product? And this was the difference 2 years later.
So, 2 years in New York, and he thinks he can tell us how to run things. Well, we won't have it.
It's all right. I fixed things. He's travelling overnight on the red-eye. He had no choice.
Not first class.
Of course not. Company policy.
By the time he gets in, he'll be exhausted.
And he won't have had time to incorporate those new figures I sent him in his report.
He'll be hungry and tired.
I've arranged for the chauffeur to bring him straight here, not to the hotel.
Like a lamb to the slaughter, gentlemen.
Morning. New Club World delivers the businessman ready to do business.
Pleasant trip.
Yes, thank you. New Club World from the world's favorite airline.
Okay, that's just a different advert, but let me try and explain why it made a fundamental difference in innovation. The customer promise now was not, let me tell you how good our seat is. It was now, we are going to be better than any other airline at helping customers arrive ready for business. How would they know that? If they get more sleep, or less hassle, less problems, or refreshment. 9 words in blue there. Those 9 words became the key to British Airways totally dominating transatlantic business travel during the 1990s. I know they've lost it now, but in the 90s they were totally dominant. Why? First of all, because there are only 9 words, so it makes it easy for everybody in the business to understand. It's simple. It's not a big document, it's simple. But most importantly is this. The customer starts to listen. Why? Because you're now talking about them. Instead of talking about yourself, you're talking about them. And when you talk about their world, they listen more. Secondly, innovation goes through the roof. And the reason is simple. You are now asking your business a different question. Traditionally, we start innovation with, here is today's product, let's have a brainstorming session to decide how to make it better. Okay? And we start with where we are today. This does something different. This asks a different question that starts somewhere else. This starts in the world of the customer. And it says, how else could we help people arrive ready for business? A different question in the customer's world. And guess what? New ideas start to come along. So things like the arrivals lounge. That's why I have a shower here. Traditionally, there had only ever been a lounge at an airport before a flight. Now the idea came, why not have a lounge after the flight in the morning when you arrive, and you can have a shower and get your clothes pressed and have your breakfast. We opened the lounge. Within 3 weeks, we were building an extension. It was so popular. The American airlines used to put people in taxis to local hotels because it became a must-have. You have to do this. So innovation comes because you ask a different question. But also, it has a huge impact on your team. If you are going to innovate in your business, you've got to take your team with you. There's no point in you being innovative if the rest of your team are not. This becomes a great tool. If you create a customer promise, then you put the customer at the center of everybody's work. So the technology people at British Airways, we gave them this. And we said, can you help? And they said, well, yes. Less hassle there. What about at the airport? They went away. A year later, British Airways was the first airline to do ticketless travel. You don't need a ticket in order to travel. You have a card, you go to a machine. Because they were smarter at technology? No. We just asked them a different question. And that was the key. And ideas then come from everywhere. My favorite idea? 2 little old ladies who worked at New York Airport for us, lovely ladies who would greet you at the lounge. They called me in my office one day, said, we have an idea. I said, great, what's that? They said, you know that thing about more sleep? We have an idea. People come to our lounge, they spend 2 hours, they get on the flight back to London. Why don't we serve them their dinner when they're in the lounge? Then they have more time to sleep when they're on the aeroplane because they've already had their dinner. We thought, what a simple, obvious idea. No airline was doing it. We offered it. 85% of customers said, yes, please. And that came from the most junior people. Why? Because they've got that picture painted. But the important thing about the picture is this. It challenges you to describe your business in a different way. Don't describe your business as what you do. Change it into a description of the benefit to the customer. I worked with a big bank in Europe who look after small companies, SMEs, okay? They realized that small businesses don't really like their banks. I'm sure you love your banks, but a lot of small businesses don't like their bank, okay? What they realized is, what's important to you? Your ambition, what you want to achieve with your business. So their customer promise has to be, we will be better than any other bank at helping you achieve your ambition. And so on. And you can do it in many businesses. And that's the challenge. If you were to change the description of your business, what would it be? Okay? So, that's the second challenge. And you see it developing in different businesses into different answers. In Starbucks, very successful brand around the world. Is it because they have the best coffee? No. I mean, they may have, but I don't know. They went through the customer exercise, and what did they understand? That it's about the environment. Wi-Fi, nice comfortable seats. It's about being better at getting in front of customers. They're everywhere. It's about personalizing it. It was much more than just the core product. And that's what it does. It opens you up to thinking more widely. I have a MacBook Air, I'm very proud to say, as my laptop. I've had it for a year now. I love it. Do I love it because I understand how many gigabytes of processing speed it's got inside it? I have no idea. All I know is I open it, it switches on immediately, it's very easy to use, and it looks really cool sitting on my desk. That's why I like it, and they understood that. And other businesses do the same thing. McDonald's built a business around speed of service and consistency. Disney do it on feelings. Disney build a whole promise around magic and surprise. And it doesn't matter what the product is, the customer feels magic and surprises. That's what makes them important. And the customer promise is your best starting point for innovation. I did a programme last year for the BBC in the UK and called Teen Canteen. And this was taking teenagers and they were setting up a food business, okay? And they didn't know what to do. And they were having lots of arguments. Should this be a restaurant? Should it be a takeaway? Should it be Indian food or Chinese or Mexican? Big arguments. I said, you haven't got your customer promise. They developed a customer promise, which was this. We are going to create a guilt-free night off for mum. This is about giving mothers a free night, but they mustn't feel guilty. So what did that say? When they had this, they understood it must be healthy food. It mustn't cost too much. It's got to appeal to all of the family members, and so on. Even how you sell it has to change. If it's aimed at mothers, market it at the school. And what they did was they built their outlet. Instead of going to the high street, an empty shop, they built in the schoolyard their place. So that they changed their opening times, so it opened when mothers visited the school. And all of that came because they understood the customer promise first, the idea of guilt-free mums right off. So that's my challenge to you, is when you have a particular project, an innovation program, or even your total business, the starting point should always be, so what? What's the benefit to the customer I'm trying to achieve, and what would they need to see to believe this? Not what are you good at, but what do they need to see? And you can do it for a business, you can do it for a team, you can do it for a project. But it's always, for me, been the best starting point for innovation, because you're now asking yourselves a different question. So that's the challenge there. The third challenge, challenge number 3, is all about changing the thinking. Changing the thinking. And what this one says is, look, yeah, I do believe it's important to look outside the current environment. And earlier I told you about beds in aeroplanes using a yacht designer. And I told you about queuing using Disney. That's kind of products and services, isn't it? My view is innovation is much bigger than product and service. Innovation might be about how you lead. It might be about the feelings you're trying to create. It might be about your processes. Those are all innovation. And you can still steal ideas from other places. There's loads of places you can steal ideas. These are some of my favourites. It might be industries, it might be services. All of these are people I have worked with business people to help them. So, for example, if you want to improve speed and efficiency, the best place I ever went to was a place in the UK called Poole in Dorset, down in the south, and the RNLI training school, the Royal National Lifeboat Institution, like the Coast Guard. The people who do rescue boats, send them out when a ship's in trouble. For them, speed and efficiency is not about a process. It's not about a textbook. It's about how they live. Every minute they delay a lifeboat, somebody could die. So for them, it's the environment they create. It's how they speak to each other. It's what they say, more importantly, what they don't say. It's how they spot the signals to get started. There are lots of lessons in speed and efficiency that go beyond just redo your process. And that's what you get by finding experts. So my view is, find an expert in the particular challenge you have and go and spend some time with them. And it's amazing what you learn. My favourite one in the banking industry is risk and compliance. In the banks, anybody here from a bank? Is there anybody from banking or financial services? In the banks, risk and compliance are often known as the business prevention officers. The people who say no to everything exciting you want to do. So what I did was I introduced them in a training course to the concept of refereeing in the sport of rugby. Now, for those of you that know nothing about rugby, it's very different from soccer, okay? In soccer, the greatest nation in the world is, let's say, for the sake of argument, say Brazil, okay? In rugby, it's quite different. The greatest nation in the world is Scotland, just so you know, okay? But refereeing is also very different. In soccer, a referee waits until you make a mistake, and then he blows the whistle. You go offside, I blow the whistle. A foul, I blow the whistle, okay? Rugby is very different. If you blow the whistle every time there is an issue in rugby, there would be no match. It would be stop, 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 because they are cheating all of the time. So the job of a rugby referee, first job of a rugby referee, I referee rugby myself, the first job of a rugby referee Keep the game moving. That is your job. So you talk the whole time to the players. Number 7, you are moving offside, go back. You don't blow the whistle, you don't stop the game, you keep it moving. And what I said to the risk and compliance guys in the bank was, what if you were a rugby referee instead of a football referee? What if your job was not say no to marketing? What if your job was help marketing to make the best claims they possibly could? You would have a completely different role in the business. So, loads of places you can go to pinch ideas in looking outside. And the last challenge, and it is last in sequence also, is to change the way we engage with customers. And here I mean internal customers just as much as I mean external, because as I say, your most important customers in innovation can be your staff. They can be just as important as your external.
Das hier ist mein Sektor. Das hier ist das wichtigste Gerät des Küstenwächters. Das Gerät und das Gerät. Überlebensradar.
Mayday, mayday. Hello, can you hear us? Can you hear us? Can you... Over. We are sinking. We are sinking.
Hello? This is the German Coast Guard.
We are sinking. We're sinking.
What are you thinking about?
Okay, one of my favourite ones, but the reason I show this, apart from the fact that it's funny, is this. There is a tendency to believe that when we want to drive innovation in our organisation with our people, that it's all about communication. And communication is very important. But my learning from British Airways says there's 2 other things you need also if you're going to make it happen. The first one is this: ambition. How you describe the ambition to your customers is critical. Okay? How you describe... If your staff believe that they can get to your goal by doing the same things they've always done before, the same processes, but just do it a bit quicker or a bit faster, that's what they will do. Because that is comfort. It's home territory. It's what I've always done. It's what I like. It's what I've been trained for. It's what I've done all of my career. But you don't want that. You want innovation. You want them to do something different. So it's important that from day one, they understand the old ways will not work in this situation. So how you set the ambition is very important. But the second lesson came out of British Airways, and it's the one I'm going to finish with for the last 7 or 8 minutes or so, is this. Look, we used to believe if you want to make a project happen, you decide the solution. This is what we want to happen. You then, secondly, create ownership, which is if people believe it's the right thing to do, they will do it. But it doesn't always work. And we had a project at British Airways called Project Interact. Interact. And the job was, we wanted the cabin crew, the people inside the aeroplane, to interact more with customers. Because the problem is they would come, they serve the meal, and then they disappear. Gone. Into the galley, curtain shut, you don't see them again. I'm sure that's never happened to you. But it used to happen. So we had Project Interact. Go and interact with customers more. So I was on a long-haul flight, and the usual thing happened. They came out, they served the meal, gone. I thought, okay, I'm the senior guy, I'm going to have a word. So I walked up to the front, and I introduced myself to the purser, the head of the cabin crew. Oh, he said, I heard you were on board. I thought, well, very nice to meet you too. He said, you're going to tell me to interact with customers, aren't you? Now, I was changing my mind very rapidly at this point, but I thought, no, I'll persevere. So I said, well, yes, I was going to. He said, I'll tell you what then. He said, stand there. I said, pardon? He said, I want you to stand right there. Okay? So I stood where he'd told me. And I was in front of the curtain that goes out into the cabin. He's there by the coffee machines, out of sight. And I'm standing thinking, this is very strange. And what happened was, he leant across in front of me, he grabbed the curtain, and he whipped it back, really quickly, really noisily. So I look up, now what do I see? 50 business class passengers, all facing me. They've all heard the noise, so they all look up to see what's going on. And we look at each other. And what felt like 10 minutes, but was really about 4 seconds, there's a voice from behind me over there. He's going, "Go on then, interact." What do? I interacted with the curtain. I shut it again pretty quickly. But he'd made his point. It was all very well to understand what you're supposed to do. And sometimes the barrier to innovation is not that your staff don't understand. Often they do understand. The issue is you are asking them to do something they have never done before. So we realized we needed help to make it easy to take the first step. So things like hot towels, you know, the towels that get passed, are they there because we think you've all got dirty fingers? No, they're an excuse for the cabin crew to go back out and interact with customers. And in every innovation project, I believe it's critical to have a make it easy bit. How are you going to help your staff to do it? The best place I ever saw it, big problem for me, cabin baggage. Right, cabin baggage. For those of you that fly regularly, I have some new information for you. There are some bags that you take with you on a trip that are too big to go with you onto the aircraft. And they need to be tagged and put in with the baggage into the hold, okay? I know you don't believe me, but there are. The solution, solve the problem at the check-in desk or we're in trouble. Ownership, get the check-in staff to understand it's their job. They can do that. The problem then comes with this. Some poor 17 or 18-year-old young lady in her first job since high school, and she's got to be confronted by one of you arriving at the airport with a bag that's too big. And two things are always certain. Number one, you know that your bag is too big. Nobody ever doesn't know that. Number two, we know that you know that your bag is too big. Because we can see you coming. Walk up to the desk, bag over the shoulder, hidden right round the back. You know. No, I've just got the computer bag with me today. Just, really, sir, you've brought the mainframe computer with you, have you? Look at the size. It's crazy. So the make it easy bit, I claim no credit for inventing. I stole it from Sydney Airport in Australia because I thought it was fantastic. Horribly misused by low-cost airlines. But what is it? It's the boxes that you now see at airports. Madam, I would love you to take that bag on board. Nothing would give me greater pleasure. But there is a maximum size. So, if your bag fits in the box, you're very welcome to take it on board. If it doesn't fit in the box, we will need to tag and put it in the hold. So blame the box, don't blame me, okay? That doesn't stop people, by the way, at the airport putting the bag like this and then sort of trying to ram it into the box. If you see somebody doing this, wait and watch. They've got a rim like this. Once that bag has gone in, it is not coming out again in a hurry, I promise you. One day I will see somebody walking onto the aircraft carrying their bag with the box still on. You know, look at me. I told them it would fit. Anyway, I have about 2 minutes left, so very quick summary. For me, 4 challenges around innovation. As I say, please, lessons I've learned, it's not preaching, it's not the textbook, it's here's some observations. Number 1, we need to change the way we understand our customers, and I've talked about soft insights, but also understanding your customer's customer and understanding the person. Change the description of what you do. Talk about the benefit to the customer as your platform. Don't talk about your business. Challenge number 3, get outside your industry. Look to lessons from other places. And challenge number 4, change the way you engage with customers, and in particular internal customers, and in particular the make it easy bit, because that's really quite important. And I leave you with one last thought. I have 1 minute and 2 seconds left, so I will leave you with one last thought, which is the best bit is when you get to the yellow. The yellow is the best. This is when you're learning from other places. And I got taught a very good lesson on this by my youngest son. My youngest son is called Donald, okay? If I'm going to grow up with a stupid Scottish name like Hamish, my children will also have stupid Scottish names. So Donald is my youngest. In this story, he's 4 years old. He's a lot older now. I'm travelling downtown in my car in Edinburgh, the city where I live in Scotland. He's in the back seat, strapped in like this in his car seat. On the radio, I have Van Morrison playing. Van Morrison, rock music, okay, but uses some acoustic instruments, some traditional instruments as well. Donald from the back seat, Daddy, what's that sound on the radio? I said, pardon? He said, that sound. I said, it's a kind of musical instrument. What kind of musical instrument? I thought, I'm going to have to get creative. So I said, look, Donald, imagine a Mars bar, which was his favourite chocolate bar. I said, imagine a Mars bar, but instead of made of chocolate, it's actually made out of bright, shiny silver metal. He went, ugh. I said, now imagine if you put this bright, shiny silver metal Mars bar to your mouth, and if you blow, it makes a sound. And if you suck, it makes a different sound. So you blow and you suck, and you move it from side to side like this, and you can play tunes on it. It's a kind of musical instrument, all right? Oh. I thought I'd better ask. I said, Donald, just out of interest, a minute ago, why did you ask about that sound on the radio? He said, oh, nothing, Daddy. It's just, well, it sounded a bit like a harmonica to me, but I wasn't sure. Which was a very good lesson from your 4-year-old, that the process starts with the green. It doesn't start with the yellow, it doesn't start with the red, it starts with the green. Understand your customer insight properly, and that gives you the platform for then moving through the other lessons, okay? My customer insights tell me that I have used up my time and need to stop, and I'm standing between you and other great speakers here. So just to say, I'm going to be around for the marketing forum later, and I'll expand on some of these lessons, but for the moment, thank you very much indeed for your time. Thank you.
Hamish Taylors. Un tagad ir tas brīdis, kad mēs varētu atvēlēt burtiski 2 minūtes 2-3 jautājumiem, ja tāda no zāles ir. Vienkārši paceliet roku un rekur kolēģi mums palīdzēs. Un jūs varat uzdot kādā valodā vēlaties, bet galvenais mikrofonā. Lūdzu.
Sure. Hi. Question, when you speak about the sort of the getting deeper, softer customer insights, you're invariably treating the customer more as an individual. So my question is, how do you, if you go away from the numbers, how do you make sure your customer is a representative customer, not just somebody who has a particular feeling on that day?
A very good question. I think, first of all, that is the person that you are dealing with on a particular day, so it's important anyway to understand on the individual. But yes, I think a broader interpretation of soft insight is corporate culture and understanding the organisation. And I've seen that fail. When I was at Eurostar, the marketing department was taken over by a particular company that had an investment. They sent their marketing people into Eurostar. These guys said, we are the experts on marketing, let us tell you how to do everything. They came across a bunch of very experienced railwaymen, and it was a clash like this. And because they didn't take the time to understand the culture, they failed to bring innovation. So no, I think you raise a very good point. It's a broad definition. It's the individual, but it's also the culture.
Okay, thank you so far. Vai ir vēl kāds jautājums no auditorijas? Ja ne, es uzdošu savējo. What have you did with the Eurostar case? You said that there is huge losses on one side,
yep.
And on another side there is overall good service.
Yeah.
What have you did? Maintaining the service and
yep.
decrease the losses.
Yeah, I mean, well, in that particular case, it was over-engineered. It was designed beyond the price points that people were willing to accept. So there were two big things. First of all, get your pricing right for the market. We had a better product than the airlines in business class, but we were 25% cheaper. Why? Because they thought the railways are a social service. The French said, no, you can't raise price. I said, I'm sorry, if the choice is airline or railway, and we are better than the railway, at least be the same price. So that was number one. Number two was the focus was therefore not on the quality of the product, because as you say, it was good. it was about revenue and volume in leisure. So the whole focus was get more leisure travellers onto the trains to get the revenue line up rather than trying to cut cost. And that was the secret at Eurostar. But also the key lesson for innovation was...
Just refocus.
I failed, yes, but focus is the key word, because where I failed at Eurostar was when I first joined, I saw a list of 27 things you needed to do to reduce the loss, and I tried to do 27 things and I failed. When I decided it was one thing, leisure revenue, then we succeeded, because you get everybody focused. So focus was absolutely critical. Focus on, I know you can spot lots of problems, but choose the biggest and just concentrate on that.
Dāmas un kungi, Hamish Taylors. Aplaus viņam.
Thank you.